3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a DJ, a turntablist, and an old mate of mine, Hijack. Thanks for coming, man.
Big ups, my bro. Thank you for inviting me down. So good to see you. It's been so long.
In COVID times, I popped in and said hello briefly at that pub, remember? Down near the beach. That's the last time I saw you. Morty Alec way there.
Oh, yes, of course. I've forgotten about that, you know?
Yeah, that was a funny time when things were half open and half not.
Oh, don't remind me of that gig. That was awful. Yeah. Luckily, he only continued a few weeks.
It was horrible.
And then, I was very happy to be removed from the roster.
Well, yeah, man, that is the last time I saw you. I've definitely it's been a while between drinks from there. But let's jump into your story, man. How a guy from the UK became a full-time resident of Melbourne and a staple in the Melbourne club scene. Let's do that. Should we do that?
Yeah, how far back you want to go?
Well, let's.
You know, I had my 47th birthday a few days ago.
No, but
we're going from the start.
Well, let's talk about how you got interested in music. Maybe let's start there.
Okay.
I'm just going to reframe you one sec because I think I bumped the cameras when we were jumped in. Is it cool? Can you move over a tiny bit? Is that all right? You good?
Done, dada.
And now, hopefully, sorry, man. I think when I walk past, I must have bumped the camera. All right, we're good.
No worries.
Yeah, sweet. I'll just chop this back here. So yeah, man, let's talk about how you got interested into music.
All right, into music.
Music.
I was probably about 7, 8 years old. And
Set the scene. Where are you growing up?
all right, so I was born in Cobham, which is just outside southwest London. It's where Chelsea Football Club have their training ground. That's what makes Cobham famous. Back then, it was just people had no money. I remember my mum was pregnant with my brother, and we only had one chair in their house. So
one chair?
Because she was pregnant, and she got the chair. But yeah, it was still happy times, you know what I mean? So we lived there for a while, then moved down to Maidstone. Then when I was about 12 years old, moved to Southampton.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Maidstone, I started getting into music through the BBC chart show, just listening to that. So my music taste was pretty
Just
drab.
radio, sort of.
Just radio.
Yeah.
And I used to have this double tape deck. Well, my parents used to have a double tape deck.
Like one of those?
Yes, just like one of those. And I used to get the tunes that I liked out of the top 40 and make my own mixtape out of it. And I did that every week for years. And then I had this 50p or £1 pocket money from my dad. And my dad saw my interest in music and said, do you want to get a 7-inch vinyl instead as your pocket money? I was like, yeah. So that's when I started buying vinyl, but it's not very good vinyl. It's funny vinyl. It's there's things Neighbours was quite big back in the day. I've actually got Kylie Minogue releases from the 80s and stuff like that. What was it? I remember buying her first album, and me and my brother went halves on it, and we fought over it. And the Locomotion was on that, and a lot of other terrible tunes. But yeah, that was the start.
The Aussie connection came early.
Yes. Well, I hear that no one liked Neighbours over here. It's only in England that people actually watched it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was just on.
Yeah.
It was just on the TV. Whether people not watched it, I don't know.
I remember running home from school to watch, Neighbours. Gosh. Yeah. Good riddance.
and then you decide, okay, so you're buying 7s, so you've got obviously a record player at home, you've got your tape deck, and then you start to think, are you seeing people play music on TV in a way that you think, I can mix this together?
No, so this was 87, right? There was hardly anything on TV about DJs or anything like that. The rave scene had just started, late 80s, acid house. And I got these, I just mentioned before, I got these cousins down in Plymouth, and I used to go down there, and they're a little bit older than me. And my cousin Sean, he had a set of Technics turntables in his bedroom.
Wow.
He was never there, right? And he had all this like acid house, early hardcore music there. And I used to just go into his room when he wasn't there and just start playing his records and stuff. He had a I can't remember what mixer it was.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that first started giving me, this is what a DJ is. This is what a DJ does. And at the same time, they were both being a bit older than me. They were going out to raves at night, coming home the next day. I'm there with my parents and my little brother. They're all like, whoa, we saw this DJ, we saw that DJ. Like, so they were into the rave scene already. I was too young for it. Yeah. But I started going out and buying the same music that he had. I was like, I need to find these records because I like exactly. So that was the start. I was probably about, 11, 12 then.
Yep.
And then
and you're buying acid house, like sort of white labels and stuff like that. Because are they at commercial record stores? You've got to go to like underground record stores.
Yeah. So there was my first proper record store was a place called Trip 2 Records, which was in Southampton. They initially started doing hardcore music, which quite quickly turned into early jungle. But this was probably quite a little bit after my first set of turntables. So I had a mate at school, and I was 13, and he had this. I was jealous of him at the time, but these things were made of wood, right? They were made of wood. Like as soon as you touched it, the whole thing just like rocked. There was 2 turntables, but there was no mixer. There was just 2 volume things like that.
Oh.
No, you couldn't. No tempo. You couldn't speed or slow anything down. So what I used to do is get every single record and sit there, think, right, okay, the minute starts now. 1, 2, 3, and count the beats on every single record, and then write it on there. Yeah. So then all my 130 BPM records, I used to play them together. And then, I can only do a mix with those records. It was absolutely horrendous. And I've tried to find like pictures of this. It's so old now. Pictures just do not exist.
So it's like a sideboard sort of thing, and then you've got one record player on one side, one on the other, and individual volume knobs.
Yes, and that was it. It was just so basic, but it kind of... I didn't know anyone that was actually DJing. No one actually taught me.
So even your cousin who had the 2 turntables, he wasn't really DJing. He was just buying the records that he was listening to out?
I'm not sure, but he was never around.
He was always partying.
He came out. He used to come out at like weddings and things like that. Okay. But my hunger to get into kind of DJing type of music was based on seeing his collection and his turntables and stuff. Yeah,
for sure.
So it took me a long time to get my first belt drive, which was probably a couple of years after.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, belt drives are probably better than a dual gramophone, but they are still not really what you strive. You want to get a direct drive turntable is what the goal is, I guess.
It's a good starting point.
It is.
It's a good starting point. So when I had I was always collecting records, but then I probably didn't take it seriously until I got my first belt drives. And then I used to be a regular at this record store called Trip 2. Mm-hmm. Just in there every week. Didn't have much money, but just picking up any tracks that I could. And it was like one of those, you go in there and they play the record for you. There's lots of people in the room. And if you like the tune, you put your hand up and they say, all right, I want a copy. And they just throw them out.
That's what Mark 563 was saying. That was what was happening. Seems to be a big UK thing that where he was buying records in London, the same sort of thing would happen every Saturday.
Well, I didn't start going to shop in London until I started having DJ gigs, because London was like it meant you had to get a train, then you had to get around London, so it's like an additional expense. So
Sorry, I'm just going to fix that door. I don't know why.
yeah, sure, bro.
Yeah, that's so cool. That whole thing they just play to everyone. Who wants this? And I guess it's like a bidding sort of thing. Like, oh, if I saw that guy put his hand up, then I better get it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. So the reason I suppose everyone was on the hunt. So we used to have mixtapes. So used to have these raves like Fantasia, Dreamscape, all these kind of things. And I was a little bit too young to go to them, but every time they did one, you used to get these mixtapes. Like it was probably before the time you could actually buy the official mixtapes. But people would get a copy of a tape, and then you get it like Cole Cox at Brainstorm and like stuff like that. And you used to hear the tracks, and you didn't know there was no Shazam back then, of course. So you're in the record store. It's like, I heard Cole Cox play that at this place. Like, yes, I need that record. That's kind of how it went back then. Because you didn't have a clue what was what.
No, and then there was actual tastemakers, because if that person played it, it was going to get, people were going to purchase that record.
Exactly. So I was buying hardcore, happy hardcore, and that very, very slowly went more breakbeat. So we had, turned into jungle quite quickly, which was, it was amazing, because it was more like, even though hardcore was like our sound, like jungle just felt like a fusion of so many different cultures.
Were you privy to this in the UK, that it was your thing? Because that wasn't happening around anywhere else in the world at that stage.
Well, I think people say the first track that came out was jungle was We Are E. I don't know if you've ever heard that one. But yeah, hardcore went quite breakbeaty. So it was just house before. I think it came from America originally. And then we started changing it. And then as they brought the breakbeats in, they're like, oh yeah, we like these breakbeats. And then everything went breakbeat. And then it turned into jungle, and they started putting, like Jamaican reggae vocals over the top, which was, And I suppose after, I was probably 16 when I had my first gig. And that was a jungle gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's your proper first gig playing somewhere.
Yeah, 16 years old. It was in Salisbury. The guys at Trip 2, Anil was the guy that run the shop. He got me the gig. He saw me every week buying records. He knew what music I had. He knew what he wanted. He said, come down. And I remember I wasn't fully grown, right? I remember I come up to this club, and the turntables were excessively high. I wasn't that short. But there was all these tall guys DJing like before me and after me. And I come in, I'm just like this. And I'm scratching away on this, playing drum and bass. It was incredible, man.
And that's a proper overage club that you're sort of sneaking into? Or is it an underground sort of rave?
No, it was a proper club. I can't remember the name of the club. It was in Salisbury. There was a headliner as well. I can't remember who the headliner was, but what they used to do is get one headliner, and they used to have the DJs that bought records in the shop, basically. And that continued for years. But
it's a great concept, though, isn't it? Like, because you're pushing your record store, you're pushing people purchasing stuff, and you're building sort of a stable of people. It's a good marketing point.
Exactly. Yeah. It's fantastic.
So then that's your first real gig. They can't even pay you in drink cards because you're not even old enough. So,
this was, gosh, when was this? So if I was 16, that was 93, 94.
Yep.
So people didn't care back then.
You just wanted to play records.
Yeah. It's only the more popular, more commercial places that people did IDs and stuff like that. Yeah. People didn't really care about it.
So you were there to see it change pretty quickly. I'm guessing by the late 90s, it would have been very different.
Yeah, well, it was. So you had your hypes and your Andy C, DJ Randall, Groove Rider, Fabio. Used to love LTJ Bookham, and it very quickly turned into different. I suppose jungle kind of stabilised and was fashionable for quite a few years, and it went off into different. So you had LTJ Bookham bought his more kind of progressive sound, musical sound, and then it went quite hard. And but then you had also the jump up stuff, which is like your DJ hype, zinc type stuff, super sharp shooter.
And which way did you favour towards?
All of them. I find it, and this is the kind of story of my career, I suppose, that I find it very hard to just lock myself down to one genre of music. I love all music.
Which is the key to being a good versatile DJ, really, isn't it?
It is, but it does create problems because people pigeonhole you.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think I'm a R&B hip hop DJ, particularly when I came over here. I was an R&B hip hop DJ, and people thought, "Oh, why is he asking for a house gig or a garage gig or a drum and bass gig?" And I didn't even get into hip hop until about 2000.
Yeah.
So I was kind of I listened to hip hop, but I never played hip hop pre 2000 really.
Yeah, but that's because there was a whole scene of other genres where, in the UK, like...
Well, when you get into drum and bass, right? Drum and bass is like the only music that you're going to listen to. It was like, that's the thing. All my hardcore records, I was like, I'm never going to play hardcore again. And I gave them away. I swapped them for something, I can't remember. But yeah, in my head, that's it. That's the only music I'm going to listen to for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And
It's like a religion.
Yeah, completely, yeah. It was only when drum and bass had a lot of vocals, and then it went quite dark. And then over a period of a year or two, the crowd changed from being like 50-50 women, men to 90% men, but 10% women, because they weren't really interested in it. So it kind of died out, and then that's kind of was the prompt for me to get into UK garage.
Right. Which is kicking off then.
Yes, yeah. Well, drum and bass is always going, but it went through you remember General Levy? He had like a top 10 hit, incredible. He was on that track I played you in the car, actually.
Well, I was asking who it was, but that's when you got out the car, so I don't think you heard me.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it did peak and then it went downhill. Now it's just like absolutely huge. But these things go in cycles.
For sure. Yeah. And so then you're not someone who wants to stick to one genre. So when something falls out of popularity or like the gigs aren't there, you're able to sort of move with the times.
Yeah. So I suppose I learnt my lesson from drum and bass.
To not stereotype yourself.
Because I just went from gig. I was playing... I had gigs in London, Bournemouth, Portsmouth, Southampton, and they gradually just slowed down. I'm like, well, I can either play in my bedroom, or I can start playing some different music, which is what I did.
Yeah, and so then you're still going to have to buy the record, so you've got to start your collection almost from scratch.
Yeah.
Or you were always collecting that sort of stuff?
I started collecting UK garage from when it first came out, but that was well later than drum and bass. That was around 99, I think it was. Garage came out.
And did that change the scene pretty quickly?
So I lived in Southampton, and we had it was through Anil Trip 2 Records again. He Mark Hill and Pete Devereaux, who were the Artful Dodger, they were starting a night at a place called the Rhino, and they needed warm up DJs, and I was buying like bits of UK garage from Anil, and he just recommended me, so I became their warm up DJ at this night, Rewind, every Friday at the Rhino. Which actually went on for 11, 12 years in the end. But
real longevity for a club night.
But yeah, at the very start, the first time I turned up, we had Craig David was there. Like he was the unknown. I didn't know who he was. He was the unknown Craig David. Yeah. This was just before Rewind came out. If you know Rewind,
Artful Dodger worked on that with him, didn't he?
Yes, that's right.
Or did they? I just found out they're a duo. I thought it was one person, but
yeah. So they were the kind of originators. But yeah, it's changed a bit now.
For sure. And so, man, there's like, what a time to be involved in music. Like, because a lot of people, not having to go saying that you're a bit older, but a lot of people that were DJing probably were young at that point, where you're already established, you're already playing in the clubs. You know what I mean? So it's different. A lot of people were coming up at that stage, and that they were that shit was already in place when you saw it. The changeover kind of happen, and that become the most popular genre in the clubs.
Yeah, I suppose I should make the point that it's very different from today because there was no there was CDs, but there was no CD players.
Yeah.
So they had these things in the club.
The rack mount players.
Yeah, with this little thing. Like I don't even know what it was for. Like you loaded your CD in, and
That's the first CD player I had.
So nobody ever used it because it was so bad. And because of that, if you had no vinyl collection, you couldn't be a DJ.
Yeah.
So me and all the other guys that had vinyl used to pick up all the gigs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This is pre-Pioneer hitting the scene.
Oh, I can't even remember what they were. Those old ones.
They were Denon rack mount ones, and they.
Oh, were they Denon? Oh yeah, Denon.
Yeah. And before that. Before the jog wheel, they had the nudge button where you'd push the button and it could nudge the tempo, the pitch one way or the other. Gosh. That's the first CD player I had, which is,
So I used to produce stuff at home and I used to I worked out how to press play on it, but that was about as far as I went. I wasn't trying to manipulate. I pressed play and then get my vinyl ready.
Yeah. And you were producing then as well?
Yeah. At the very end of my drum and bass days, I had the first ever. Have you had a Cubase?
Yeah.
So I had the first ever Cubase, which was blimey, it was very restrictive. But yeah, I started making drum and bass. So I actually got an acetate. I don't know if you know what an acetate is. There's a place called Music House in London. It's like North London near Highbury. It doesn't exist anymore. But you used to be able to get your DAT or your CD or whatever you put your track on. You used to be able to go down there in the morning, wait, get your track mastered, and come out with a vinyl, which is on
like the test pressing sort of thing.
Yeah, it was like one copy acetate press. Mm-hmm. Problem with that is that I used to turn up early. I was this like little white boy from Southampton. And used to have people like all these Mickey Finn, Groove Rider, and they used to just bump the queue every time. So you're waiting in this room. It wasn't like get out of my way, but it was like they just walked straight in and got theirs done. Mm-hmm. Used to be waiting around for like 9-10 hours just to wait for one acetate to be pressed. But when it's finished, you're like, yes! And so then I used to go and play my track that I'd produced like a couple of weeks back at a club, which was just incredible, amazing.
If you knew how to work the Denon CD players, you could have just burned the CD. It would have been easier.
Yes. I did use those a little bit later on.
Yeah. But it's not the same as having the big record to take out there, though, man.
Yeah, it looks better, doesn't it?
For sure. And so then from that point, I'm guessing this is at a pretty early days of record stores, and there's not a whole lot of copyright and stuff. So if that record is popular and you show it to the person that owns the record store, do they say, well, we could make this into a bootleg, we could make this into a white label, that sort of thing?
That never happened to me.
But it was happening though, wasn't it?
But it was happening.
Definitely happening.
Yes. So all the big guys were doing. So everyone. So if a big track came out, like trying to think of a. Like there's the Arsonist, Urban Shakedown. Like every drum and bass DJ had their own version with their name over the top of it. Yeah. That went round. I used to get these dub plates done a lot. It's just kind of.
Was it an expensive process?
I think it was £35 at the time. They probably changed over the period, but £35 back then was quite a lot of money. Yeah, probably. Yeah, but then you get a train and then tubes. Got your whole day out there.
Could you play them for a long period of time, or if you keep playing them, would they eventually lose quality?
No, you'd have about 15 plays.
That's it.
Of good play. And then you'd have about 100 plays.
So you don't want to waste them. You're like, can I listen to that record? You're like, hang on, wait till a few more people in the room.
But when I used to do garage ones, I used to have my MCs on there as well. So I used to get to the club at night and they're all excited to hear themselves on vinyl.
Yeah.
But going back to what you're saying, there was one time I used to work with this guy. I was making R&B music, and we produced this track called Truth or Dare. And I used to go to Uptown Records and Black Market Records in Soho. And I took the track that we made to Ronnie Harrell, who's I'm not sure if he's the owner of Uptown, but he was big there, and he used to have shows on BBC. And we played him the tune. And he goes, I'm going to play that on my show on Saturday.
Wow.
And we thought, oh, you're going to play it. So we're listening to the show, and he actually plays it. But he never went anywhere.
No, but he shouted you out. You got your back announcement and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that gives you a big boost.
For sure, man. And then, because at this stage, pirate radio is a thing as well, yeah? But
yes.
Yeah, because BBC's mainstream, but pirate radio is happening. What was that like?
So we used to have a pirate radio show in Southampton, but it was because it was the only pirate. I don't know if you heard about the pirate radio shows in London, but they were a lot harder to get caught by the police because there were so many of them.
Yep.
In Southampton, it was really easy for them to get shut down. So
the one with the house with the biggest aerial on the roof.
You just needed this tracker, and as soon as you turn it on, it finds. All you've got to do is put in the hertz value that's not actually a proper channel,
Yeah.
And then they can find the location really quickly.
Yeah.
So I used to do that one, but I was just super scared every time I went there because it was still vinyl. You lose your vinyl collection.
Yeah.
It's like,
so you're not worried about the implications from the cops. You're worried about losing your shit.
yes, yeah, and they confiscate, and that happened. What's it called? Whisper FM. It was called.
Yeah.
My mate Risky used to run it. And I had a show for a while there. But the London ones were just a bit sketchy. It was they weren't sketchy, but they're always in like these high-rise flats. And I was, friend of mine, I was like 20 years old at the time. I'm walking through North London, these scary-looking places with all my records. Again, scared to lose them. I'm going to get jacked at any time. I never did actually, but it was always a bit of a harrowing experience.
Yeah, that's it. You don't want to lose your collection. It's pretty tough to build it back up again.
Well, you only bring in like I suppose 2 boxes, 3 boxes, whatever. Yeah.
Especially if you've got your own acetates in there and you're paying 35 quid per pop. You know what I mean? You don't want to lose those. They're one of a kind as well.
Yeah, it was good. I did rinse. Before it was, because obviously it's now legal, rinse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did that. The other ones I did a couple others in London.
What was the name of the show that you had on Whisper FM? Were you Hijack at this stage?
I've always been Hijack.
Always. So there's never been a rebrand, another DJ name or anything.
So the gig I told you about earlier.
Yeah.
So the guy from the record shop, Anil, said, "Right, I'm putting you on at this gig. What's your DJ name?" I was still at school. I was in, I think it was like, I was 16. So I was like, 2 years away from, it's different in the UK to it is here. But yeah, 16 anyway. And so I was like, shit, I've got a gig in 2 weeks. What am I gonna call myself? And I was in an English class and I had a dictionary. And I said, right. So I was going through the dictionary and Hijack just popped out. It's like, Hijack, sounds drum and bass, that'll do.
That'll do. That's it.
And it just stuck from then, yeah. And I suppose it was very, because I was a drum and bass DJ, it was very drum and bass. It probably was good for garage as well. It only got later on, like when I became like house DJ, and it probably came a little bit less kind of the right type of name for it.
Yeah.
It's a bit fierce for like more chilled out crowd, I suppose.
Yeah, but it works, man. It's not that aggressive. Like essentially to hijack something, it is aggressive. But I think it's got its sort of playful nature as well. You could be hijacking the tunes. You could be hijacking the sound system. You know what I mean?
Just not the plane.
Just take it up, that you don't want to probably put that down when you're traveling interstate, overseas and stuff.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I do. Even when I went to Bali last week, I hid the cover for my laptop, which I didn't want to put that on there just in case.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. So you've got your gigs flowing. You've done your pirate radio stuff. You're producing a little bit of music. You got a song played on BBC. So then where are you going from there, man? It's quite a journey already, and you're only in your early 20s.
So things kind of we had, I suppose, garage took me a lot of places.
Yeah.
I had an annual residency in Malta. Was at Malta for like
So there's a big garage scene in Malta.
6 years in a row. I don't think there was actually. Well, it's always because I knew people.
Yeah.
Like I know someone who said, "Oh yeah, do you fancy coming out?" He's like, "Yeah, all right, I'll give it a go." But in Malta was the first year I turned up, and Man United had been there the week before doing some kind of what they call them
Friendly.
like a friendly game, and the promoter booked me in the room that they stayed in. It was just plush, like 5-star hotel. There was bottles of Man United champagne in there, right? Like just proper spoil. Wasn't expecting it at all. Second year, 4-star hotel. No champagne.
No champagne. No.
Third year, I think the 6th year, the promoter said, "Oh, it's all right if you stay with me." And I was in his back room with no air conditioning, and that was the last time I went there.
You're like Malta's changed.
Got big up Graham Charles if you watch this.
Good on you.
Love you both.
Yeah, well, so it's taken you. Well, garage. Look, it is a very UK focused, and I imagine in those early days, it hadn't really made its way around the rest of the world yet.
No, not at all. But even so the way I explained kind of the demise of jungle drum and bass back in those days was that it went very dark. So I think Fracture was talking about it on his podcast. Garage went from very vocally to very dark, very bass driven, and that's when it turned into grime too. So grime was born out of the very dark UK garage. And of course, when that happened, the females didn't come out as much, and the guys obviously they don't want to come out if there's no females there, and it kind of killed it. And that's when I then started playing R&B and hip hop as well. So just started dropping bits and bobs, or like warming up with R&B and hip hop, and then playing like garage.
But you were producing R&B tunes before that as well.
Yeah. I've been producing. Like I DJ, I produce every type of music. So I was very lucky to know this guy called Aaron Soul. Aaron was he was the first English person to be signed to Def Jam, US.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what year is that? Are we talking?
This is 2000. Yeah, about 2000.
So in 2000, just to put it onto a global scale, UK hip hop's around. Grime isn't really even it's not even really out there.
That's right.
So that's a big time for someone from a US major hip hop label, predominantly hip hop, almost all hip hop. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, so he and what's his name? Tony Briscoe is the guy. So they produced some tunes. And they went to America, and they went into Def Jam's office, and Tony was playing guitar, Aaron was singing, and apparently I can't remember the exact now, but he got 10,000 US. Which goes, here's your advance after one meeting. That was the story I was told anyway. I don't know if that's
a good story.
But then Aaron, for whatever reason, the deal just shut. His first release, Ring Ring Ring, was on the Bridget Jones Diary soundtrack.
Okay.
So he was he must be getting royalties stories from that still.
So yeah.
But he was so talented, and after he lost that deal, we just started writing. So I just do instrumental after instrumental. Then he used to sing over the top of it. So he used to come around my place, just record, and all this stuff. So I need to put it on Spotify, but yeah, it's all on my SoundCloud at the moment.
Yeah, wow. So UK like rap or hip hop is popular. Well, it's not. Well, it's around.
Yeah.
So then, how does grime? How does the changeover from that rap in UK rap to rapping on grime sort of beats? Like, how does that even happen?
It was weird because I'd heard a lot of UK hip hop, and like in the early days, they were chatting in like American accents. It was like, what the hell is this? It was just
It didn't feel like it was
weird.
yours. Yeah.
And then so the grime MCs were the guys that were chatting on UK garage basically, and it's just kind of developed from there. So yeah, I suppose you've got to credit to garage MCs for the whole grime period. But then hip hop, trying to think of like some of the bigger names. But then you could say like a lot of the drill stuff sounds a little bit grimy. But
it
there's
definitely
obviously a lot
does.
later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, grime's been up and down as well. Like,
And it's the Jamaican influence and the dancehall sort of stuff that kind of, do you think that sort of popped that off?
yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think because for me it was all grime until it started for a long time until it started. New generations came along, and it was kind of got a little bit more chilled rather than in your face, like pow, like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I probably didn't follow it too much until I suppose the more Afro kind of sounding UK hip hop, and now that's absolutely huge. Like Dave and people like that are just killing it. Yeah,
For sure. Globally too.
yeah. I didn't know Burna Boy was he was brought up in London. He was born in Africa, but then he was in London from the age of 3, I think, 4.
Is it a spin out to think that there's English rappers and artists like that globally smashing it now?
Oh yeah, well it's incredible. I think some part of it is the fact that the Americans just dropped the ball. Like, this is why I couldn't play a lot of hip hop these days. I'm just so sick. The mumble rap, like, what happened there? It's like you don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah.
So I think people were looking to other places, and I'm not putting UK stuff down, but US was just killing it for years and years and years. Suddenly they went completely downhill. Their production's no good. The rappers are no good. Probably going to get beaten up by a load of US people.
No, I don't think they watch the shows. It's all right.
But yeah,
it did. But one positive, and I've spoken to a few people about this on this show, is that it opens the door for the rest of the world to go, fuck, well, we could do this and we can potentially do it better.
Yes, yeah.
And not to say that there's not great music coming out of the US. It's there. You've got to dig for it more. But I think it became very homogenized and very stale.
Yeah, I think what we see is stuff that's popular in the US, which is rubbish.
If you dig it, there's always good music out there.
Yeah.
But you've got to do the work.
That's right, yeah.
But I think, from a popularity standpoint, it became very same.
Yeah. Which is a shame. But then, like you say, it means it opens doors for other people.
For sure. And so one thing that this whole journey of you DJing, we haven't really talked about, but you do the turntablist stuff as well. So did you start scratching early, or is that something that came a bit later?
So scratching came from copying DJ Hype on a mixtape to Jungle. So before, I didn't even own a hip-hop record, and I was just trying to copy DJ Hype, and I was just trying to
like baby scratches. What was he doing? What kind of scratches was he doing?
All sorts, really.
Right.
But it's funny, like Nigel, Agent 86, like say to me a while back, like, that's why you scratch so fast because you learnt to scratch playing on drum and bass. But then it really crosses over anyway.
Yeah.
Like DJ Hype, he was a hip hop DJ before he was a drum and bass DJ. So but that's where it started.
Yeah, and then what kind of mixer are you using in these early days of learning that sort of stuff? Because people get pretty caught up on the equipment now, but as you've told us, you just need 2 different record players and some knobs and you can get going.
Basically, I remember I had like a Gemini mixer.
Yeah.
When that first DMC Technics mixer came out, I remember I got that.
Yeah. And that was the industry standard. That was the bee's knees at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the Gemini, the technology with the crossfade has changed so much. Yeah. Even the Technics one wasn't that good, really. No. Comparatively with like your S9, S11.
Yeah. Well, the faders became magnetic and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible now. I've got an S11 and this thing's just got a computer on board. Like, I haven't even got into it myself. Like the amount of effects and things you can do with it is just.
Do you have you delved into the like stems and stuff with Serato on live stuff? Yeah.
I'm a little bit more cautious. I've done it live, but I'm more cautious using stems live. Like my computer can handle it. But then when you say, so you've got to drop a track into the stems crate for it to then create your 4 different, your bass, vocals.
Do you have to do that? Sorry, but I stopped DJing a few years back, so I'm trying to figure this out. Do you do that in preparation, or do you have to do that before you put it in on the fly?
Well, that's the thing. I never know what I'm going to play until I get to a club.
So it's not like analysing files. You've got to do it, and then okay.
So if I analyse my whole library, I don't know how many gigabytes. I've got 130 gigabytes that I just carry around with me. Mm-hmm. If I just clicked on stems for every single one, it would be 4 times.
Yep.
Because
so you need to So you need to analyse it somewhat on the fly.
Yes.
But so you have to have those tracks analysed into Spotify, but you don't want to stem them because then you're going to be carrying around too much.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But then you've got your ones that you could fall back on. This will work, that'll work, and you can put them in your stems
exactly,
file.
Yeah. So I've got ones that I've already put into stems that I sometimes go to. But then if I'm live in a club, like I never know. I'll go and listen to the last 20 minutes of the previous DJ set, and they might be playing a lot of the records that I thought I might play anyway. So then, it just makes it a little bit more complicated as to plan stuff like stems mixes.
Is the technology good? Because I haven't used it, but it works pretty well?
It's incredible.
Really?
Yeah, it is. And it's getting better. Every version, the algorithm is getting better at removing. It works better on different. It depends on the quality of the file and how that file's mixed down. So if you've got if there's a lot of mid-range instruments, it might clash with the vocal, depending on the instrument. So some tunes are better than others.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty cool that technology exists now, and then it makes for, I guess, a better performance set from yourself and a better experience for the punter too, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really care, or they don't know. Yeah. If you go into a room where you've got loads of DJs there, like you can do like crazy things, and people will appreciate it.
Yeah.
If it's like your standard, like normal population, have got no clue what you're doing, they don't appreciate it. And sometimes, like if you scratch too much, they like stare at you, like, "What's going on? What's going on?" I fucking hate that.
Yeah, I had a DJ the other day, and she was told to not scratch as much, and you're like, "Oh, that's a bit sad if people get told that they can't, flex their skills."
Yeah, that was mishap. Yeah. So we had a conversation about that, and she was a bit stressed about it, and I if you do it in like section 8, right? So if the punters, even if they've got no knowledge, if they can see what you're doing, that's cool. If you're up high, right, no one can see the turntables, and you've got cutting, scratching.
You need a mirror.
Well, yeah, they need some kind of visibility. Yeah. Otherwise, really, people want to hear their record, right? And they don't want people messing around with their records. This is my favourite tune. I've been waiting all week to hear this.
Yeah, don't fuck the chorus up or something.
Yeah,
for sure. When I used to DJ before and after you and stuff at places, man, it would be pretty impressive because you would often not play any DJ edits you like, and that was a thing. You'd be like, "Nah, you don't play the DJ edits. That's cheating. You play the original track."
It's not that it's cheating.
No, but
DJ edits gets you in really bad habit, right?
Correct.
So as soon as you have edits, you've got 8 bars or 16 bars maybe where you're blending it in.
Yeah.
You become a lazy DJ because every mix you're going to blend in. Whereas if you've got a track that starts from the start, you've got to scratch the first vocal, scratch the first beat, and then just drop it. Yeah. And that's why I try not to get DJ edits. I've got some of them, but
no, for sure.
I try not to.
That's awesome for someone like you who's really skilled. For someone like me who was very basic, I was just going for the easy option. But that's man. That I used to watch you and I'd be like, "Fuck, man, he's on a different thing." You'd always play to the crowd, but also, not be lazy and push the envelope, and that's also what you do with your different genres as well, man. Like jumping from one genre to another and different gigs on the same night. Even.
That's something that I love actually, but it's not every venue lets me do that.
No.
Like Lucky Cock loves the fact that I do that, and they try and promote it with the other DJs now. But then you got other venues that won't like that at all. They want we only want R&B and hip hop in here, or we only want house music here, and I'm cool with that. I understand like why they want to do that, but I think if you mix it up a bit, people get excited. Like if you stay at 100 BPM playing hip hop and like 10 Drake songs or whatever, people get bored.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that's the awesome thing about the commercial sort of gigs like Lucky and that sort of thing. You can just play a fucking rock and roll tune out of nowhere, and people will just lose their shit. But then you take them back to where they need to go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, God, a Lucky Cock now, I play probably at least 20 minutes within a 2-hour slot. I'll play R&B, I'll play hip hop, I'll play drum and bass, maybe a little bit of rock, loads of UK garage, and they love it. They just go crazy for all of it. But you just gotta watch the crowd.
Yeah.
And if it's too much for them, like you say, just bring them back.
Bring them back. Yeah. When they start swinging off the chandeliers, you know it's time to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Sabu gives you this one. So on your personal journey, we haven't even got to even when you think about coming to Australia, man. So you're just making stuff in the UK, you're doing your thing, and then are you thinking about travelling? Are you thinking about going anywhere else?
Well, I got bored. I was DJing 6 nights a week, and I was playing the same music, only 2 venues, and I got really bored. And then my ex-wife got pregnant with my son, and I was DJing 6 nights a week, only playing R&B and hip hop, and I was kind of bored of it. And the UK is quite violent. Like people in Australia, like someone gets murdered and like it's top of the news. Like because there's so many people in the UK get murdered, they don't even put it on the news anymore. And I was like, well, my son's about to be born in the world. I don't want him to be brought up in that kind of environment. And I had friends that came over to Australia to work. And I thought, right, this is probably a good opportunity. I'm just going to give up DJing. And I'm going to move to Australia and be a dad. So that's what I did. Yeah, I've never been to Australia before in my life. I'd watch Neighbours a lot.
Like that Ramsey Street seems like a safe place to bring up a family.
So never been here. Thought stuff it. Let's just take a punt. So came over here. Everybody said, whatever you do, don't go and live in St Kilda. It's the most dangerous place in Australia. So I said, right, I'm going to live in St Kilda then.
I'm pretty sure every English person that comes to Melbourne goes to St Kilda. That's like it's like a prerequisite.
And St Kilda was a little bit worse back then. Like you still had some like Grey Street prostitutes and like it was more obvious like kind of drugs. But I'm happy to walk around there at 4 a.m. Like there was no threat. You never felt uneasy. No. And I think
if you went looking for trouble, you could find it. But if you didn't, if you just kept to yourself, you'd be fine.
But I think Aussies are very lucky to have such a safe country.
So what was the game plan? You'd only ever really done music. You were gonna come here and not do music and just get a normal job? Is that the plan?
Well, yeah. So I worked in insurance back in the UK, and they have a jobs list to say you can come in on a temporary visa.
Yeah, okay.
So I just hit up the people I knew out here and said, "Oh, do you need anyone?" And like, yes. Like lots of I could have gone Sydney. There's about 3 companies interested. I could have gone to Sydney or Melbourne. All the people in Sydney said, "Do not go to Melbourne." All the people in Melbourne said, "Do not go to Sydney." And after I'd moved, I was very happy that I chose Melbourne over Sydney, despite the weather difference. Love Melbourne. Melbourne. Best city in the world.
Yeah, awesome.
It's incredible.
And then so you're here doing your insurance thing, but then you think, oh, maybe I should play some music as well.
Yeah, so people living in St Kilda, there were people that knew I was a DJ back in the UK. A guy called Roxy.
Oh yeah, I played his going away party.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Roxy, yeah, he went and he got back. He got up on the mic and did his thing as well.
Oh my gosh! So he was here on a backpacker, 4 years. He ended up staying about 8 years. Problem was that because he had to just get cash, he had to pay for his rent in cash. Couldn't go to see a doctor. Couldn't go to see a dentist.
There was a lot of people in St Kilda doing the same thing. Man.
He had problems with his teeth. And the reason why he went back to the UK is because one of his teeth was so bad. He was in so much pain. He's like, right, okay. He went, phoned up and said, yeah, I'm illegal. Could you pay for my flight home, please?
No, I think you did his going away party with us at 29th apartment, I think.
Oh yes.
That was probably like 10 years
that was a
ago.
long time ago.
Yeah.
So he was a great friend when I was here. But I started at Veludo was my first gig, and I was playing there for a few weeks. And Roxy knew MJ. And Roxy phoned out MJ and goes, "You got to come check this guy out." And he came in and said, "Right, I'm signing you up. You're part of my agency now."
You don't get a choice. You're in.
Well, like I said, I'd actually given up. I had no hope of doing what I did. It takes a lot of enthusiasm to go from zero to work to be a known DJ. No one knows you out here, so. I thought, yeah, this guy's going to give me some help. Yeah, stuff it. Let's do it.
And MJ's the right guy because he's got, he's been here doing that forever. So
Exactly.
Yeah. And so.
Then I met you shortly after.
Not long after that, yeah, I reckon. Yeah, not long after that.
And then, every gig that you had, you brought me in as well.
Why not? Across the road, I took you across the road to
Big Mouth.
And then we were at 29th and fucking all the traps. But anyway, it's not about my story; it's about your story. So then you're back, but you still weren't. I remember when I first met you, still weren't DJing full time. You were doing that. You had your insurance gig, and then you were doing that at night time as well.
Well, I had very, very few gigs. I think probably the second gig that MJ got me was Blue Bar. And down Chapel Street back in those days, everyone was playing house music. Blue Bar was the only kind of hip-hop place there.
And it was all hip-hop.
Yeah, and it was proper hip-hop as well. It was like Gangstar, Tribe, like proper cool hip-hop. And I got a warm-up there, and I suppose I went a little bit more uncool than the rest of the guys, but the crowd absolutely loved it. Darcy was there at the moment. So obviously most clubs just want crowds. They want to sell alcohol. They want to make money. And from then, they just booked me, I think it was every week. 11 years now. 11 years I've been DJing at Blue Bar.
You've seen it change. And Darcy was awesome at that time because I remember he got rid of the CDJs. He said, no, we're just going to have the turntables if people want to use Serato or whatever. And that was the only thing. And so he said, I remember him saying, he goes, when DJs say, oh, no, I want CD players, I say, well, you're not playing at Blue Bar. And that changed it for quite a while,
Yeah. I can't remember when this... I didn't notice because I was always playing the turntables anyway. But I can't remember when they got them back in, to be fair.
I think it was when it changed hands.
Right, when Ronnie
I'm
came.
pretty sure because I saw somebody posted. It might have been you because they moved the DJ booth from behind the bar to up the back there near the toilets. And then they put the the 2000s in, I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was just pain in the ass when we were behind the bar, though.
Yeah, but
continuously had people bumping into you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That was kind of part of the
trying to
appeal.
do a scratch routine, and like the bar staff are just hitting you in the back and stuff.
And there's Zach behind you going backs, and you're like, "Fuck, man."
Yeah, those were the days.
Those were the days. But then, yeah, I guess MJ opens up a fair few doors there. Not only are you doing that, but then you get to play other gigs that are kind of, in the city, Section 8, 30 Dirk, all that sort of stuff, which is cool as well, where you're getting a lot of freedom to play whatever kind of music you want.
Yeah, I thought Section 8 was a big thing for me. Do you remember the battles? Mm-hmm. So, the first battle, I was still very, very unknown. And I remember going to Flago's house, and Keith, Total Eclipse, was in his house. And, Keith was like God to me. And I was just like, didn't want to talk to him because I was scared, because he's like Jesus Christ to me. And he's the nicest guy ever. And amazing. And then, we ended up winning the first round against the Operatives.
Yeah.
And then the second round, third round, and then we won.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And I think MJ's thought was he was only going to put me on the first one, and then he's going to get other DJs to do the other ones. And then I kind of smashed the first one, and then I ended up doing them all.
For sure, man. And I had not that year, but another year I had a small part in being involved with those things. It's hard to explain to people, even though that's such a small venue, what the vibes were at those sort of battle gigs, man. It's second to none.
Incredible. Yeah. It was. I still love Section 8 today. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and it was just it's all fire. And I think part of it is what we said before, when the turntables are low and they can see what you're doing, they appreciate it more. The crowd, and I think it's a very, very diverse crowd. Mm-hmm. You got every kind of race, every age group, everyone's happy vibe. It's just there's not many places like that in Melbourne. No.
Yeah. I remember when that first was there, I'm like, this can't last. Not that it's not going to be popular. I just thought the city's not going to let people just fucking party in a laneway in the fucking where the dumpsters are. It can't last that long. But that was probably almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, over time, there's been noise complaints. And now, pretty much when I turn up, I get the monitor, the DJ monitor, and I turn it around to the crowd and whack it up. Because the sound system, they have right down now. Yeah. But back in the battle days, it was just so loud. But then they got... The complaints were so much that there was, I think it was two or three battles, and then they had to move to that other place. Can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
and the vibe just wasn't there.
Nah, you needed to be in the open air.
Yeah, and that was the one with Darcy. That's when Darcy sorted out. Yeah,
for sure. And that was kind of the end of that battle. I don't think they did it after.
No, they didn't.
Sadly.
No. But that gave me a name. That first battle. And gigs were flying out after that. It was really good.
And that's it, man. Then you're off to the races, and then for a while, the insurance thing, forget about it.
Yes, that's right. It was just 2019. Yeah.
And then shit hits the fan.
COVID. Yeah. Well, I actually love COVID. I think it was the opportunity to spend 24 hours a day with the people that you love. I'm lucky to have a wonderful partner, Casey, and we were together all the time. Where it's very different when you're going to work at different times, and it's suddenly you realise that yes, I can spend 24 hours a day with this person, and the quality time with your kids as well.
For sure.
And it was there was parts of it that were very frustrating, but I think it's one of those. I don't think that it's ever happened before, and it will never happen again. And it was, just one of those things that I'm happy that I lived through it.
Yeah, it is, and you got to always look for the positives, and I think of it in a similar light that it's a good fucking reset, as much as the whole thing and why it happened and how it happened and all that stuff. Regardless of that, people got to spend time with their kids. My son was 12 months old, and I got to spend a couple of years with him in some really awesome
amazing
time, right? Which is great, but not everyone had that same experience. And
no,
some
of course
people,
not.
what we've got to remember, I guess. Some people, maybe their home life wasn't amazing and they got thrown in with someone who they were growing apart from, which then is the catalyst for them having a bad time.
Course,
so there is negative and positive experiences.
Definitely, definitely.
Financially, it was pretty fucked for most people.
Yes, yeah. I picked up a little bit of work. Orange Door. So Orange Door, there's a mental health thing. I did. I used to do R&B Fridays for them.
Yep.
So I used to DJ live to their employees on their Friday afternoons. Yeah, and I used to get paid for that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It's the whole. Man, I wish I had this thing going before that because I would have been just ready to go. I could have made more content, but the whole world wasn't ready for what was going to happen. Man.
Yeah, well, loads of people were very quick to sort out their whole kind of streaming things, and I didn't really do it. I was involved. I got invited to do kind of DJ streaming things, which I did. But I never went with like the green screens and all that kind of stuff. I never went out and got all the technology for it.
No, and then all that stuff you could buy cheap like last year because everybody who thought that was going to be the way that everything was going to go for the rest of their lives got a wake-up call when everything opened up again, man.
Yeah, I just use my iPhone for streaming.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's going to work just as well.
Exactly.
But then post that sort of shitty part of time, or good part of, depends how you want to look at it, the clubs open up again and then you're back to normal, man.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah. So, yeah, it went, I suppose I probably had, because I was doing like things like Love Machine, Alumbra, Miss Collins, and then after COVID, and Bombar as well. And after COVID, so a few of them never came back.
I think Bombar was almost done.
Bombar's still going now.
Right.
I DJ'd there, funnily enough, a few months ago. But the promoters that were there pre-COVID were no longer there post-COVID. So all those places are still going, but they have different contacts. And so unless you're tight with these people, it's quite hard to get in. There's a lot of work to be done to try and normally leave that to MJ.
The hospitality scene in general, the whole landscape changed post-COVID though as well. Like a lot of venues, as you said, didn't open. They might have opened with new promoters, with new owners, with new business models. Fucking everything changed.
Yeah. It was. Well, I was lucky to have a lot of the same gigs, and new gigs came up too. But frustrating that a lot of the stuff that I was doing disappeared.
Yeah. But I think everything has to change, and that was just something that sort of needed to happen. There were the way that Melbourne had gigs happening every night of the week. We've never there is places open Monday, Tuesday nights now, but not like it used to be. You can go down Chapel Street or you can go down Brunswick Street now, and you'll find some venues that aren't open in the early days of the week, which wasn't the case pre-COVID, which changes everything. Yeah,
I think, well, even now with the cost of living problems, things are getting, well, I see the numbers, particularly early in the night, numbers are dropping off. But particularly Friday, Saturday's still pretty good, but Fridays, before places used to get busy about 10:30, now they're not getting busy until about 12:30. So it's still, I think cost of living's affecting things even more.
Man, it's like $16 for a beer. You know what I mean? Like, how much is a cocktail? Like $25-$30. Like, people can't afford to go out that long.
No. I think there's some people toughen it more than other people as well.
For sure. And like another thing, we're in our 40s. Like kids that are 18, 19 that are starting to go out, they're not drinking or they're not going out even as much.
No. They're so much more health conscious. They're all into sport. None of them smoke. None of them drink. Like, it's fantastic. I have to worry about my son.
No, but from people that make their money in that industry, it's hard.
Yes, you're
man.
right.
You know, we need that.
Yeah, we do. And if it continues that way, the DJs are going to die out.
Well, I think hospitality's in a fucking balancing point here, man, where I think there's a lot of tax that they've got to pay. There's a lot of overheads. And if people's health conscious mentality and that stuff continues and they keep jacking up the price of booze and the tax on it, it's going to be hard to sustain.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to go, to be honest. Well, hopefully we'll get out of this, well, not recession, but this tricky period and people have more money to spend. But
you said you're going to go back to the UK soon. Is their hospitality scene and their night scene going through a similar sort of...
So I would kind of compare Melbourne with London, I suppose. So bars, restaurants everywhere. The food there is. So I remember the food being okay. We're really spoiled with the food. The food here is fantastic. Even like quite cheap food is really well done, comparatively with London. And they have these posh restaurants, and the food's like, oh gosh, I'm not paying that much money for that. Going back to your question, I've heard that it's because I've been there for 2 years, but I've heard things are as a cost of living hitting as well.
Yeah,
but it depends what areas you live as well.
yeah. But London, is it back to party London full pace like fucking?
I'm not sure. I know friends of mine have said that a lot of venues have shut, but then those venues get bought by other people and reopen. But I'm not amongst it enough to be able to comment. Really, I suppose.
You have to let me know when you get back, man.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. So, how long are you gonna head over there for?
So I go back for a week. My dad's birthday and Father's Day. And then we go to Greece for a week.
Yeah. Are you playing in Greece?
No.
Just
holiday. It's family, chilled holidays. My mum and dad, my brother, and my son, and me. Just be chilling. Bit of sunshine after this. The Melbourne cold. It's just kicked in.
It is, man.
But then when I get back to the UK again, I've got a gig at Rita's Bar, it's called. I've never been there before, actually. With the club that I talked to you about before, the Rhino, where I had a 10-year, 11-year residency. All the guys that used to play there are coming back.
Like a reunion?
Yeah, so that's going to be tight.
Who else can you tell us any of the dudes that you'll be catching up with that you haven't seen for a while?
Aki and Gavin Ford, they run Garage Shared, the record label, which is pretty big. Not too many, because there's not too many garage DJs out here, but they're huge in the UK. They're putting out tracks all the time.
Yeah.
They're playing. A guy called Ryan B, who was kind of guy I used to DJ with constantly. He'll be there, but he's kind of come out of retirement. he doesn't DJ anymore. But yeah, I used to love playing with him back in the day. There's MCs, Dukey and Super D, who are my MCs in our crew called the Bouncing Crew from 2001.
So full reunion.
Yeah, full reunion. I've even invited some of the other MCs, because we used to turn up to the Rhino. We used to have a queue of about 20 MCs just waiting to get on the microphone, and some of them were just crap. But a lot of, if they were tight, they ended up joining the crew. Like we had a guy called Dennis G, who had a track called Sambuca that went quite big. He was one of the ones that were in the line that, it was just like, oh, he's wicked. Aaron Saul, who I knew, actually I met him at the Rhino as well, who I used to produce the tracks for. I've asked him to come down. He says he's going to come down. Mm-hmm. So, and some of the old managers as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so
full reunion.
Just getting as many peeps as I can down there just to say hello.
And what here? I noticed that you've been doing some Revs early morning gigs as well, man. How are you enjoying that?
I love Revs. Yeah, it's amazing. It's because I'm into so many different types of music, to have a stage where I can play just dance music. So I'm playing kind of bass house, a little bit of tech house, predominantly UK garage, speed garage, and it just works so well. Crowd are just hyped. It's just I do that kind of once or twice a month, and it's just So I'm there this week, 5 till 7. Next week's 4 till 5. So it's always early morning gigs, but I do that on purpose because I've always got another gig that finishes at 3 a.m. So I'd say, what times can you make? Any time after 3. So
it works out.
Yeah.
And are they the gigs that you're playing records at?
This week I'll be playing through Laptop, Toronto. Next week is a strictly vinyl night. Yeah. And they've done a full-on UK garage vinyl night next week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you think you'd be doing that on Chapel Street?
Well, I think I was... I probably wasn't the first DJ to start playing UK garage there, but since I started playing UK Garage there, a lot of the other DJs are playing a lot more UK Garage, which I think is kind of moved to the way of, right, let's do a UK Garage night. Yeah. So,
sure.
yeah, it's sick.
For sure, man. Yeah. And then you, aside from those gigs where you get to play your own music, you're still doing your commercial stuff. You're still gonna get your bread and butter gigs happening as well.
Yeah, well, that's right. Like, partly one of the reasons I gave up before when I was in the UK was because it's just stale playing the same music. Now I'll go to Blue Bar, play Afro. I'll play multi-genre Lucky Car. I'll go to Section 8, play UK Garage. I'll play, Revs, multi-genre house garage music. I had a drum and bass night at 30 Dirk that I started before it shut down. So, yeah, I think just being across so many genres just makes you, I'm loving it.
It keeps you passionate, because if you keep playing the same music at the same joints, you just get sick of it.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
It becomes repetitive.
Yeah, for sure.
And what about some other English artists that you've been working with? I know you did a gig with Fracture not long ago. That sort of stuff. Is it cool to link up with other, UK crew here doing some different stuff?
Yeah. So I think Fracture's the mate. I don't see Fracture as much anymore. He kind of, I don't know, semi-retired really. Like when he was doing the 50-50 stuff. I know he talked about it on his show the other day, but that was just incredible. Like peeps were coming from all around Australia, like flying in for this one night. It was just absolutely incredible, and the crowd is just intense. It's so hot in there.
Yeah,
like you could cook an egg on the stage. It was that hot. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was really humbled to be playing. So I used to go in there and play instrumentals basically. But Fracture, Scotty Hines, those guys. Then Nerve got me to come in and play. We warmed up for Flowdown a couple of months ago.
And he's smashing it, isn't he?
Oh, amazing! Yeah. But yeah, we did Triple J, Shadow as well. I think you know Shadow.
Yeah,
Shadow's sick. But yeah, my kind of grime works kind of dried up a little bit. I could do bits and bobs here. It's mainly like the artists will just say, "Oh, can you play tracks while I'm doing a show?"
Do you reckon 50-50 will ever come back, man?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think it'll be difficult. I think grime over here is kind of moved in different directions as well. Like a lot of the people that are into grime are doing a little bit more kind of drill. Some are doing grime, so it's not a pure grime thing anymore. It's now diversified.
Yeah, and even just rap has grime influences now. So you've got like people that wouldn't even consider themselves grime artists rapping with grime flows on hip hop beats. It's like a whole new thing.
Yeah, it's all about experimentation, isn't it?
Which is cool.
Just creating. Yeah, well, I love it. That's how you create new music. Trying to make join different genres together to create a new genre. This is where UK Garage came from. This is where drum and bass came from. It makes it beautiful.
For sure, man. And you see like what Nerve's doing, like he kind of had that grime sort of production, and even his raps with the flow, and now he's just turned that into sort of like he's not his own genre, but his own sort of lane of production and stuff, which is sick.
Oh, he's sick producing. Yeah, crazy. I was trying to get him a link up when I was in the UK.
Because he was there for a little bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure whether it happened. Like, we kind of created this group, and my guys were keen on doing a track with him because they do mainly UK Garage, but they do a bit of grime as well. I thought that was going to happen. I'm not sure whether it did. Yeah. But then Vida's over there while I'm over there, so I've sent her a load of instrumentals, so she might be doing a track over there. Yeah. So we'll see, man.
Tell us what's coming up for Hijack in 2024, man. What have you got aside from your trip overseas and your family shit? What have you got coming up? Anything exciting, man? What about the track you played? Are you going to release some?
I will. I'm really rubbish on Spotify, you know. I've only got like 2 tracks on Spotify. Everything's on my SoundCloud. I'm working on mainly UK Garage, but a little bit of house as well. And I used to make music with a kind of a monetization kind of headspace. Now I make music to play music. I make music that I think will fit in my set. So like I'm playing my own music in Revs now, and it
seamlessly slides in.
Yeah, people don't, because they don't know the tracks anyway. It's not like you're playing like Montel Jordan or something like that, is it? It's like you're playing a UK garage tune, and of course fits in. But that's where I think anyone that's trying to make money out of music, it's kind of the wrong way to look at it. So
you've changed your thought process.
Yeah, okay. I was doing it to think, I might be able to get a record deal at some point. That's what I was working towards, and I find I have a lot more enthusiasm when I'm working on music for my own DJ sets, and that's where things flow.
And that's really essentially where the hip hop producers and most producers sort of came from, because they were DJing. They saw what was popular. Like, if I make this, people will fucking dance to it. They'll get down with that, and that's kind of that's where it sort of came from, isn't it?
Well, yeah. The beauty is testing your own stuff. Dropping it, just looking at the crowd and see how they react.
Yeah, that you mentioned 86 before. He was pretty good at that. He would make those edits where he knew that these guys would this song worked and that song worked and that little thing. Yeah, he was really good like that, man.
I've got a few of his edits.
Yeah,
they're dope.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. We should maybe. I don't want to talk about everything because I want you to come back again.
I'd love to come back again.
And I want you to come back when we've got maybe a couple of MCs in here. You can do your thing. They can do some verses. It'll be sick, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll bring down my mixer. I'll play instrumentals and they can rap over the top. That'd be dope.
That'll be a thing. All right. Hijack, man, I appreciate you coming in. Thanks for making the journey here, man.
Absolute pleasure, my bro.
Cheers,
Great
man.
to see you.
3,000.